All right, ready to climb into the fascinating world of red squirrels?
Oh, I'm ready.
Well, today we're taking a deep dive into a 1999 research paper.
Okay.
It's by C.M. Shuttleworth, and it's all about how red squirrels use nest boxes.
Nest boxes.
Yeah, not birdhouses, but special boxes designed for squirrels. We're going to uncover some pretty surprising things about how these boxes can be used to study squirrel behavior
Oh,
and what they tell us about these adaptable little creatures.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot to learn from this one.
Yeah.
Using boxes to study squirrels.
Yeah, who knew?
I think our listeners are going to find this really interesting. Seeing how something as simple as a box can give researchers a whole new perspective on red squirrels and their populations.
Exactly. Okay, so first things first. When I picture a squirrel nest, I'm thinking of those messy, leafy bundles way up in the treetops.
Right.
What do scientists call those, by the way?
Those are called drays. They're typically built in the forks of branches or in tree cavities.
Drays. Got it. So if they're already building these drays, why even bother with nest boxes?
Yeah.
Wouldn't squirrels just prefer their natural homes?
Well, that's one of the big questions this study tackles.
Okay.
And the answer is a little more complicated than you might think.
Okay.
It turns out that the type of forest a squirrel lives in can really impact their nesting options. This particular study focused on a population of red squirrels in Formby.
Formby.
Yeah, it's a National Trust Reserve in England, mainly coniferous woodland.
Okay, and coniferous means lots of pine trees, right?
Lots of pines, yep.
So fewer of those classic big trees with hollows perfect for building a dray.
Precisely.
Ah,
In coniferous forests, natural tree cavities are less common compared to broadleaf forests.
I see.
So nest boxes become a valuable alternative for the squirrels.
So it's like if there's a housing shortage in your neighborhood, you might be more open to moving into a new apartment building, even if it wasn't your first choice, right?
Yeah, it's all about adapting to what's available.
So these boxes are like squirrel apartments. Were the squirrels picky about which apartment they chose?
Well, the researchers designed two different sizes of nest boxes,
Okay,
a smaller one and a larger one, to see if squirrels had a preference.
gotcha.
And they kept meticulous records over 4 years.
Oh, wow.
Everything from how many baby squirrels were born in each box to whether the squirrels moved their young to a dry at some point.
Wait, they moved their babies out of the boxes?
Yeah.
I thought the boxes were supposed to be a good alternative.
They are, and the squirrels definitely use them.
Okay.
But remember, this study was all about understanding squirrel behavior,
Mm.
not just providing housing.
Yeah.
By observing how the squirrels used the boxes and sometimes chose not to use them,
Yeah.
the researchers could learn a lot about what squirrels find important in a nest site.
So it's less about the squirrels being picky and more about the researchers wanting to see what factors influence their choices?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm definitely hooked now. Let's dig into what they found out about these squirrel apartment preferences. So they were tracking things like how many baby squirrels were born in the boxes. What else did they learn from all this squirrel apartment monitoring?
Well, one of the most interesting things they discovered was that the squirrels didn't just use the boxes for raising their young.
Really? What else were they using them for?
Researchers found lone adults, subadults,
That's adults.
yeah, basically teenagers,
Okay.
and even deceased squirrels in the boxes.
Wow. So it was like they were getting a glimpse into the entire life cycle of these squirrels, not just the breeding season.
That's right. And this actually allowed them to learn some surprising things about mortality patterns.
Like, what were the squirrels dying from?
Yeah,
Were predators getting into the boxes?
that's what you might think. But it turned out that the main causes of death were actually starvation and disease, not predation.
That's really interesting. I guess if the boxes are high enough up in the trees, they might be pretty safe from most predators.
That's certainly a possibility. And it challenges the assumption that nest boxes make squirrels more vulnerable.
Okay, so we've got squirrels using these boxes for all sorts of purposes, but
Yeah.
you mentioned earlier that sometimes they move their litters out of the boxes and back into drays.
Mhm.
What was that all about?
Right, that was another fascinating finding. They observed that about 39% of the litters found in boxes were moved out at some point, usually to a dray.
Almost 40%. That's a pretty significant number.
Yeah.
Why would they go through the trouble of moving their young like that?
Well, it suggests that while the boxes provide a good alternative nesting site, especially in a habitat like Formby where natural cavities are limited, there might be other factors that make drays more appealing to the squirrels, at least at certain times.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of factors?
One possibility relates to insulation. Remember how we talked about drays being made from natural materials like leaves and twigs?
Yeah, I can imagine those being pretty cozy, especially compared to a wooden box.
Exactly. Drays are likely much better insulated than the nest boxes, particularly during colder months.
So maybe they're using the boxes for the security. But then when it gets chilly, they decide it's time to move to a warmer dray.
That's one interpretation. And it fits with another interesting trend the researchers observed. Nest box usage actually peaked during summer and autumn, but then dipped significantly in winter and spring.
So maybe they're prioritizing safety over comfort in the warmer months when predators are more active, but then opting for the warmth of a dray when temperatures drop.
That's a very insightful observation. It seems like the squirrels are weighing the pros and cons of each nesting option based on the time of year and their perceived risks.
Hmm.
Almost like they're choosing between a city apartment and a country cottage.
Huh.
Each has its advantages and disadvantages depending on what you're looking for.
Squirrel real estate. I love it. But if drays are so great for insulation, why use the boxes at all?
That's a great question, and it brings us back to the whole safety versus comfort debate. While drays might be warmer, especially during colder months, the boxes could offer better protection from predators, especially if they're strategically placed and designed. And remember, the study found no evidence of predation in the boxes.
So it's a trade-off. They might sacrifice a bit of warmth for the added security of the box.
Exactly. And it highlights the complexity of animal behavior. They're constantly adapting and making decisions based on their environment and their needs.
This whole deep dive has been really eye-opening. I'm starting to see these simple nest boxes as windows into a much bigger story about red squirrel behavior and how they navigate their world.
That's exactly what makes this research so fascinating. And it also has important implications for conservation efforts.
Okay, let's talk about that. How can these findings be applied to help red squirrels in the long run? So we've got all this amazing data about squirrel habits just from something as simple as a box. But how do we actually use this to help red squirrels?
That's the key question, right? It's not just about gathering information. It's about applying it to conservation efforts.
Okay, so what would that look like in practice?
Well, for starters, in areas where natural nesting sites are limited, like coniferous forests, providing nest boxes can be a simple yet effective way to boost red squirrel populations. It's like giving them a helping hand in a changing world,
Okay.
supplementing the dwindling supply of natural tree cavities.
I get it, sort of like creating more affordable housing options when there's a shortage, but besides just putting up boxes, how else can this research help?
That's where the monitoring aspect comes in.
Okay.
By tracking how squirrels use these boxes, researchers can gather valuable data on population trends, breeding success, and potential threats,
Okay.
like disease outbreaks or even the impact of things like climate change.
So it's like having a built-in early warning system.
Precisely. And that early warning can help conservationists make more informed decisions about habitat management. For example, if they notice a decline in nest box usage in a particular area, it could signal a problem with food availability, or maybe an increase in predator activity.
It's amazing to think that we can learn so much about the health of an entire squirrel population just by observing how they use these boxes.
It really is, and it underscores the interconnectedness of species and their environment. By understanding the needs of red squirrels and the challenges they face, we can work towards a future where both they and their forest habitats can thrive.
This whole deep dive has really made me appreciate those little birdhouses or squirrel houses, I guess, in a whole new light. They're not just cute additions to the landscape, they're potential treasure troves of information.
That's a great way to put it. They really do offer a unique window into the lives of these amazing creatures.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to learn more about red squirrels and maybe even put up a few nest boxes in my area.
That's wonderful.
Uh,
Every little bit helps.
And for our listeners, if red squirrels are adaptable enough to thrive in both natural drays and man-made boxes, what other surprising behaviors might they be capable of? What mysteries are still out there waiting to be uncovered? That's something to ponder. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.